dead tree. Next. Anyone know what type of religion this comes from? Christianity. Now this is a little bit unique because it's a corrupted tree. At the time that Christianity was specifically only for the people of the Jewish faith and the tribes of Israel, this was the proper religion. After people became associated with the Trinity and after they started leaving the actual teachings of Isa, peace be upon him, they started believing in complete fantasies. They started associating the religion with divinity. And they started associating the prophet as the son of God himself. Next slide. Anyone know what temple this is? You don't answer.
Okay, Jain.
Not Jainism.
No.
Anyone know? Baha'ism.
Yeah.
And this is interesting because I wanted to use this as an example. When this religion was founded, these people had a concept that they were completely separate from Islam. Unusual that the fact that they believed that Muslims were revealed from, Islam was revealed from God to Muhammad, and that the Quran is a revealed document, but they don't believe in Islam. They believe themselves as a next step. And actually took some time to research this and ask their people this, and I actually figured out some key things. And I want to illustrate this by looking at a timeline. So I have a question before we go on. The Ahmadi Khilafat, after the promised Messiah died, does anyone know what we invested our time and energy on? The prime thing. Propagation. What about propagation? What else? Go to the next slide. We'll show. Oh, that's supposed to. All right, next slide. Schools. Actually, it's very interesting. So if we go to the timeline of Ahmadiyya, and we go, here we go, scroll down. Scroll down. Go to 1908. Go to 1908. Anyone know how fast we started doing this? Anyone know? How many years would you say? The very next year. The very next year, after the Prophet Messiah died, we established a madrasa. Keep going down. And then the Talim of Islam High School. And then also auxiliaries like Ansarullah. And then we started sending out missionaries. And then we had publications to teach people about Islam. Because once you have a system that is stable, has a good foundation, you have to bear fruit. Does anyone remember that story between the promised Messiah and the Holy Prophet in a dream that he had? In which he had a book in his hand. Does anyone remember this dream? The book turned into fruit. Is that correct? And what happened to that fruit? The promised Messiah saw the Holy Prophet feed that fruit to a dead person, and that dead person was revived. That dream was an indication that Ahmadiyyat was supposed to be a source of religious propagation that would revive mankind. So it makes sense in the very beginning, we spent all our energy and time establishing these schools. And this is only the first few years. Keep going down. For example, do you remember what happened after 1984? After the fourth Khalifa moved away from Pakistan? Immediately, what did he attempt to establish to communicate with the rest of the world? Because that's MTA. Because our prerogative was to communicate. Other religions, do we have, for example, tafsirs of our Holy Quran in which we study the Holy Quran? If something was given to us by God, then we study it. We study it with sincerity, and we try to teach it to other people. For example, do you guys know that you can go online and see the entire detailed commentary of our Holy Quran, broken down in different languages? Because we want to teach this Holy Quran to other people. So I have an example. I actually contacted people of the Baha'i faith and I asked them, and I'll ask you now, do you think that people of Baha'i faith have a tafsir of their own holy book? A translation? They don't. They don't have a tafsir. In fact, I contacted and I discussed this with them. I asked them, do you have places in which people can learn about your faith online or discuss your faith online? They don't. And the concept here is that in the very beginning, if you look at their timeline, actually, let me see this for a moment. So if you look at their timeline, it's a very interesting timeline. And it's very confusing because their own people that they claim to be prophets never claimed ever to be prophets. They claim to be divines, but never prophets. So let's see. Okay. So you have to understand something. They have two prophets. One of them died very soon after he started saying that he was a prophet of God, or claimed to have divine right, but that was only a few years later. He was executed. The second one died sometime after, in 1892. And the first school that they opened, or the first place of worship that they opened, was 1901. Now, it begs the question that, of those who know about the faith, do these people lack the resources and money? No, they're actually very, very rich and influential people. But the thing is, they never actually taught mankind. So if anyone were to go to them and say that, hey, I want to learn about you, what do they have? They have nothing. So that's where it comes into Khilafat. If you ever see the pattern that we have as Ahmadis, when we learn about the Holy Quran and we know that it's from God, the first thing we did was we opened the book and we taught other people the book. So that book created fruits for mankind. Out of that, we were able to teach our young generations, all the way from the young age to the oldest age, about Islam Ahmadiyya. In the Quran, it describes this. It says that, when we have a good tree, its branches reach to heaven. That means anyone can use this tree to learn about Islam at every level. That means we dedicate the resources and time to actually help people to understand more about our religion. We were able to spread ourselves, and it was a prophecy to the four corners of the earth due to our efforts of tabligh. In fact, in 1924, we were able to send missionaries to the Soviet Union. At that point in time, it was considered nobody went to the Soviet Union, and the reason was is because they thought everyone was spies. And actually, in fact, they jailed him, and he had to be pulled out. But at that point in time, we understood that spreading our religion is key. And there was a point in time which other people were not doing it either. When we came to America, we came here and we were jailed again for similar other reasons that didn't make much sense. They thought we had a polygamous law that was mandatory, but that was also cleared up. And from that, we were able to propagate about Islam. Anyone have any questions before we end this? Anything?
Yeah, what was the name of the name of the person that was jailed, the first missionary?
Mufti Muhammad Sadiq for America. For the USSR, I forget his entire name, but I remember he was jailed. They thought he was a spy, and they eventually let him go because they kept asking him, are you spying for the British? And he said, no, I'm not spying for the British. So they let him go eventually. But any other questions about anything? So the key thing is that when we have a living tree, you're going to see evidence of it. So for example, if somebody asks you ever, says that, what is the difference between you Ahmadis and Baha'is? You guys both sound the same. At that point in time, it's easy. Be like, we have an entire system that's dedicated towards teaching mankind. Our religion is based upon our book that we follow, and we respect that book. And we translate that book into other languages so people can understand. We don't hide behind our religion. In fact, if you guys take a look at Scientology, it's very similar. They don't actually teach you about the whole religion until you donate money for the religion. They want you to get to certain levels, and then after that, they'll reveal more about the religion. But a true religion tries to teach as much of itself as possible for every level of understanding. They don't hide anything. All right. Any other questions for this?
What was the name of the missionary you mentioned?
I think
His name was Maulvi Zahoor Hussain.
Zahoor Hussain, I think.
Bukhara. In
Maulana Zahoor Hussain. And you have to understand, 1924 is before World War II. I mean, at that point in time, anyone going there, it was just after the Soviets started becoming in power. They were very, very strict people, but at the same time, we still sent our missionaries abroad. And not many other religions actually even focused upon this strict missionary work. I mean, Christianity tried to, but they were corrupted before they even started propagating. But in the very end, it shows us that the tree of Khilafat actually was alive and very well nourished, that it had a connection. In fact, it had such a good connection that we were able to spread and also influence people from the very beginning. And if you look at the timeline of Ahmadiyyat, especially during the second Khalifa, we actually had a lot of opportunities, and we took those opportunities to spread our teachings and establish institutions to spread the teachings further. Our financial institutions are the reason we can build so many mosques. If you ever take a look at the Baha'i mosques, or they call them temples, they're very, 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 very well designed, but there's nothing inside. I mean, if you ask them, teach us about your religion, show us something about it, they have nothing to show. That's the main problem. It's actually a prophecy that in the latter days, there would be temples like this. There would even be mosques that would be very, very look very nice, but inside they have nothing. Inside there's no teachings, there's no education happening, no one has Islam in their hearts. It's basically falling apart. Go ahead.
Were you able to figure out what their basic tenets are? for Baha'is?
I figured out their basic tenets. So basically, they have a tenet that all religions have a expiration date. And this is the unique thing about Ahmadiyyat. Ahmadiyyat came at a time in which Muslims were juggling, thinking about abrogation, whether to think that the Quran could be abrogated or not. And the Baha'i are very unusual because a lot of their teachings came after their prophet came. So for example, they try to hijack a lot of what we believe. They think that the seal of prophets, we think the seal of prophet means that the law is there and it is established forever. They think the seal of prophets mean that there could be another prophet after him and he could be a completely different law. I don't know how they justify it, it makes no sense. They also believe that the Quran is fully divinely revealed, but it's outdated, which the Quran itself says it's a book for all of mankind, and it says that it's also a book with no doubt in it. On top of that, they believe their own books. They have, like, for example, two books that are main two books, Kitab-i-Aqdas and Kitab-i-Iqan, and they believe that both of these books are revealed by God directly. But an unusual part is this: why would God reveal many books when He always revealed one book? It didn't make any sense. So a lot of what their teachings were confused, and when you actually ask them to show them your book, so a lot of non-Muslims do this. When they translate the Holy Quran, they don't show the Arabic when they translate it. They just have English paragraphs. And they had a very similar thing, English paragraphs, but they didn't have any detailed commentary based upon the original Persian, or I think it was Persian, characters of it. It was Persian. They didn't have